Okay, so welcome to the October Parent Meetup. So we're happy to come together this month and we're going to talk about how we can support our highly intuitive kids at school. And this is just an informal conversation with the folks who are available to come because we know parent schedules on any given day with activities for themselves and with their children. We're always busy and running. So by being able to record and put the information out there, you can still listen to the replay and pick up bits and pieces of information that's going to be able to help you in your journey of helping to support your highly intuitive child at school and outside of school and just your overall family. So we're glad to be here today, and thanks for the folks who were able to show up. And I want to acknowledge Rebecca, who wrote the book, Let Them Move. She's here today. And then we have our two other participants, of course, my other half, John, and we have Robert joining us today. So one of the things I just wanted to mention was that, especially from birth through puberty is like the most important time for a child. And they spend most of their time, in school. But during this period of life, that's when they're learning how to, shape their responses to how they're going to move and be and exist in the world. And this is where their identity forms and, it's just all the factors of supporting your child's growth. So we just wanted to talk about and just share some ideas, share some tips and things on what's worked for us, what has worked for each of you, just giving some feedback and some input. But I do want to say that having high intuition it's not a choice, it's a trait. And these kids are born with this, and those of us adults who have it. And it's just a different way of thinking and learning and moving through the world. And we have to honor that. And we have to advocate for our children with that, because school systems and being in the school can be hard for intuitive children and empathic children because they experience and feel the energies and experience things differently in the school system. What do you think about that, Rebecca? Have you had that experienced that with your daughter?
Yes, and I also was a former teacher and currently work as an occupational therapist in the school system, and I see it all the time. For my daughter, who's highly intuitive, empathic, I'm reflecting back on her experience. We didn't, that wasn't something that when she was younger, we didn't really have the language around that. We didn't, really know what was going on. She was, kind of pegged as with learning disabilities and that kind of thing. And now she's a senior, and we've had quite a journey since her early years. And in reflection, she was just overwhelmed. Like she couldn't get information in because she was pouring all of her energy out to everyone and holding everybody else, like feeling everybody in the room. And it just completely blocked her experience of, being able to focus and learn. And so she was also diagnosed with ADD, from a standard psychiatrist and that kind of thing. And since then, we, one of the things that she figured out on her own in middle school was to go up to teachers at the beginning of the year and say, I just want to let you know I learned differently. And the teachers really appreciated that. And she just said, sometimes I'll need you to speak to me directly one-on-one and re-explain what you already said to the class. And she didn't realize why she was needing that, but she advocated for herself. And it really started to change her relationship with, because before the teachers just saw her as apathetic. She wasn't trying. And she was just overwhelmed, but here she was taking some action, advocating for herself. And they didn't really know the specifics of what was going on with her, but they were able to kind of help her. And then as she got older, I started taking her to our Reiki practice, actually her junior year in high school. And the Reiki practitioner loves working with teenagers and loves helping them because she was a mess. Her teenage life as a child, she wants to really support this population. And she gave Corey all these tools, like just ways of clearing herself, protecting her space, and recognizing that she had been holding all of her friends' stuff and that was overwhelming. And since then, she's been great. I mean, she's like a different person. She's thriving in school. I mean, there's certain things she still doesn't like, but she's doing so much better. She's now in an acting class, which is a great way to kind of express some of that stuff, you know.
Well, you know, Rebecca, you hit on a lot of key things that I think are important for people to really understand that we wanted to talk to. So thank you, because there are quite a few of these children, because they have this different learning style, there are those who do get misdiagnosed and they get labeled with ADD or ADHD. But these kids in reality, like you said, they take on a lot. They can be over fatigued, they're overfeeling, they draw in the energies of, like you said, their friends. So I love the example of what you gave with what happened with your daughter. And that's one of the things, like, to come to this is for parents to really start understanding that, like, to look at it differently, that these kids, you know, especially in the classroom, they're with a lot of other children with so much energy going on. And when you are sensitive and intuitive and empathic, you pick all that up and they don't necessarily know what's going on. And that's so important for parents to know that, and I love how you said your daughter went up and started talking to the teachers about it. John and I actually went and we were started telling the teachers for Ethan that, you know, he's empathic, he's intuitive, and letting them know he needs to have time to be pulled back from groups. I mean, there's group projects and all, but that he needs to pull back. Sometimes the teachers say, oh, well, he seems antisocial, he's sitting on the outside. It's like because of the energy in the classroom. He needs time to sometimes pull away just to kind of regroup himself before he comes back into it. And so I think helping our teachers and the educators, like, to understand that, because just like you said, when our child was younger, we didn't have the vocabulary for it either. But since then, we've looked at, you know, we just have to start stepping up and telling the teachers and explaining and educating them. And that was part of why we put all of this together, is to help. And I think, like what you said, Rebecca, because taking your daughter to the Reiki practitioner, one of the things, and that's in this group, you know, having people, we're going to start the beginning of November with having sessions for kids to do just like what you're talking about, learning how to clear, learning how to work with their energies, because they don't have a chance to have that outlet at school of really understanding how to work with it. So if we provide an environment for kids to come together and start doing that, then they're going to process, because even a lot of these kids can deal with anxiety and it's just built up energy in their bodies. So if they have a means to process that, that's so helpful also. So did you find she talked to the teachers herself? Rebecca, did you have to do advocating for her?
A little bit, yes. I mean, I guess she was really in a good place her 6th grade year. And then I think, you know, kind of got, you know, of course, she's in that time of her life too, where everything's changing, it's overwhelming and it's hard to know what's going on. So 7th grade year, I had to advocate for her a little bit more. And the teachers really didn't understand. I mean, like, you know, and I understand being having been a teacher, it's such an overwhelming job. And there's so, you know, there's the system itself is broken, you know, what's expected of teachers and what the focus is, the testing and the you know, like the core curriculum and how it's all focused on this very, you know, just the intellect, the human intellect, not the soul intellect, you know. And so just and I do see it in like one of the schools that I'm working at, they've brought in yoga and they've brought in some other modalities for kids to learn to connect in with themselves. And some teachers are good at, you know, they're baby empathic and they can feel that, you know, the kids need different things. And I can see they're trying to switch things up a little bit, even though there's a lot of pressure on teachers to do this like curriculum. And it's just not, you know, it's not appropriate. It's not human appropriate. I want to say it's not developmentally appropriate. Well, it's not human appropriate because we are more than just that.
Yeah.
We are much greater than this academia that we present, and it all goes together, our intelligence comes through when we're supported as a whole being, as an energetic being, as the physical, the energetic, the emotional, all of that. If all of that can get supported,
Mhm.
the kids are going to, they're going to be much more excited about learning. They're going to go so much further academically.
Yeah, that is true. The social emotional piece of this does prop the whole thing up, and that's why I loved your book, Let Them Move, because that's another component. And for people who are in the group, that's why we're bringing all the different authors and experts in, because it's all pieces of the bigger puzzle of the whole child and the whole person. Like you said, we're whole people, we're whole energetic people, and understanding and having all this information about these different components, pulling it together, helps us as parents to be able to advocate for our child. But John, I was going to ask you, because we just recently found out for Ethan, I wanted you to tell the story about the teacher who's doing the meditation class, because I think that's important. The more you have teachers and parents and just support systems around these kids that can bring in that piece that helps them to regulate, their energies and just themselves, is so important. But Jen, I want you to tell them about Ethan's one teacher who's doing the meditation in the class.
Oh, yeah, so there's one of Ethan's teachers who's before her class starts, she lights a candle and she kind of sets a tone for the class, and she invites the kids for like about a 60-second quiet time where they kind of go within and kind of just get quiet and kind of get their energy down and get it grounded. And a lot of Ethan, my son, he really enjoys that time for the class, because I think the rest of the kids enjoy it too. I've heard positive feedback from that. And that's something that's a great way to start the class. It kind of bottles up all that kid energy and kind of brings it down and kind of gets kids in the same level and connected with the teacher so they can have a positive class together. Yeah. But also Rebecca, I wanted to make a comment on I like what you did with your daughter and how that turned out. And I think it's a good example for parents that are maybe watching, is that, advocating for your child, obviously you have to be a part in this and try to help kind of connect teachers into what's going on, and then helping your daughter to be more proactive in her control of things, that she has some control over this as well by talking to the teachers like that. And then I kind of look at everything as like energy, and from that energy, from that unlimited energies, there's unlimited possibilities. So do something. You gotta do something. If you do nothing, you're gonna get what you get. So, I like the idea of the let's try the acting thing, and wow, that's something that opens kids up, because in those unlimited possibilities are great possibilities that open up the whole world for a child. And just, I guess, whatever it takes for other parents to look at their child and say what that child may be interested in: music, lacrosse, basket weaving, animation, or something like that. Every child has some type of thing that they're drawn to, that they're connected with, that really helps to open them up and kind of changes their energetic being. And it helps out. And usually, sometimes it's along their purpose for being here. But I think that's really great for parents to allow children to connect with that, which gives them huge possibilities, and actually can be something that ends up changing their life.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to piggyback off what you're saying, John, because that's how, and we'll talk about a couple things, but that's how I feel like your child prodigies. I think every child has greatness, like what you're saying, John. Every child has greatness, is connected into something. I think the messaging and how it gets handled is what makes the difference between somebody, really being a child prodigy, being classified as a child prodigy or not. To me, child prodigies are nothing more than an adult, whether it's a parent or someone else, who's recognized that thing that is that child's special gift and has started working with them at a young age, because they're connected. Child prodigies are nothing more than children who have stayed connected in a strong way to their gift, that their soul, and that they've come in to bring into the world. And some people get don't get it recognized right away, and they have to come into it later. And then some kids get recognized right away. If you see your kid at 2 years old is talented on the piano, and you go get him a piano and you work with it, or you're just like, oh, that's just something he's doing, and you don't ever, help support that at that age. So it depends on how it's recognized. But I think every child and every person is really gifted from the beginning, because we all come in so connected that it's there. It's just how it's worked with, and the messaging on whether we stay connected to it, move away from it, have to find our way back to it. So I think that's beautiful what you said, John. That's really important. I think parents need to just kind of really tune into their children, parents and the other support network around the children, tune into them and not try to cookie cutter approach with them, with how they're being handled and, but really accept what they're bringing, listen to them, because our children are so wise. They are very wise. If we understand that we can learn as much from them as they're learning from us, and let them unfold and have that space to not be shut down because you don't believe or think that what they're saying or bringing makes sense, or it's kids are just naturally intuitively connected from the very beginning. They just start learning out of it when they get into school years, and logic, the left brain kicks in, versus they're very right brained up until like 7, 8 years old. So that's really important. And I think like what you said, Rebecca, about your daughter about learning styles, that's one point I wanted for parents who have tweens and teens. I think it's something that's really helpful is if you take the Myers-Briggs assessment, with you get some kind of assessment that tells their learning style. We did that this summer with our son. He's 7th grade middle schooler. And actually on our website, and I may pull that up during this, but on the website, there's a link for to be able to take a free Myers-Briggs assessment. If you learn your child's learning style and actually have that, Ethan came back, which we knew he would. He came back an intuitive learner. He came back, scored very high in empath. So right there, that tells you if people understand that, you know how to work with your child's way of being at home. But even in school, because school curriculum could be designed, if you know that you have a classroom of intuitive learning style kids versus what they call sensate or linear style thinking children, you can gear your curriculum and how you teach more in that way. And intuitive learners need more open-ended self-discovery time, slower pace. They need more time for like visioning and dreaming. And that helps to ground them, and they're going to do better. But when these intuitive children are in such a fast-paced, detail-oriented, sensate way of learning, it can cause stress for them. I see you shaking your head, Rebecca. So I'm a former teacher, so you know all of this.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just speaking to a lot of things you just said about, there's really a collective consciousness of that cookie cutter style of being in our culture and probably beyond in the world. And it's that the energy of that is so profound, it's so pervasive. And so it does take a very passionate, devoted, and aware person to go beyond that. And like I'm an intuitive person, and I was always doing things as a teacher beyond, and I got burnt out because I was basically trying to do 2 different roles. I was trying to do the collective cookie cutter role and the outside the box, let's let them explore and discover role. And so if we can really just intend for the entire institution to shift, if we can really focus energies in that way. And and my book is just one little piece of that. It does tie into all these things, just allowing children to move. I mean, it touches on just basic development, but also the intuition piece and all sorts of things, being able to express yourself. But yeah, it's a challenging thing. I will say, going back to what John was saying about the meditation, that your son is able to, that 1 minute of meditation and what a difference it makes. It reminded me of when there was a year, like the last year I was a teacher, we learned, the school took on a program called Conscious Discipline, which was actually, it's wonderful. It's a wonderful way of acknowledging different children's needs and their social emotional needs. And it does, allow for that space and provide tools, for kids to pull back and that kind of thing. So conscious discipline, I would recommend as a system for us, for any school. One of the things I did that was probably the most powerful thing for personal well-being and collective well-being, so simple. If anybody was having a hard day, or anybody was homesick, or if somebody got into a battle or whatever, there was something hard that came up, and this was with first grade, so it's kind of easier to get the first graders on board than me. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's okay with older ones, but we would all put our hands on our hearts and we would sing, "We wish you well, we wish you well, all throughout the day today, we wish you well." And that simple little act of all the children coming together and putting their hands on their heart, and then we would send out a heart bubble to whoever needed it. It just shifted the whole dynamic, the whole energy in the room, because it creates an environment of, first of all, recognizing somebody's having a hard time, even though you may disagree with them, and sending, when you give love in that way, and that doesn't drain you, when you're just like giving your love in that way to anybody, it actually fills you up, and it everyone in the room gets fortified with that feeling. So it was just a simple thing that I remember always being shocked, like, wow, that just changed the course of our day, just that one moment. I almost looked forward to somebody being homesick so that we could do it. And then it lifted the vibration of the room every time. So
I love that, Rebecca. And see, and that's why I think these conversations are so good, because we do have people in the group who are teachers and educators. And I'm hoping part of like what you're saying, I mean, I love that, because it's just little simple things that if we can get, just open minds on all levels, like I said, support system all around children, home, school, whatever, little technique like that. I mean, I just you singing that, I could just feel that just felt good. It was lightens up the energy. But it's like these conversations, and even like our website, like what you were saying, Rebecca, the reason why we put that together, there's resources out there for educators, for parents, for other professionals that can make up a child's network, as far as, mental health professionals, social workers, family advocates, any of those. But having that resource up, it's very important for people to know that it's there. And one of the things that we wanted to say during this was for parents to know that. And actually, I'll screen share in a couple of minutes and pull it up and show. But that also serves as a basis. We were guided to put that up, intuitively guided to do this whole project and to put that up, because parents and educators can go now to somewhere, an actual website with credible information and resources out there, and books and links to different articles, even like you were talking about earlier, Rebecca, because we do know there are children that get intuitive children that can get diagnosed with ADD, ADHD. Some of them may actually have it, some of them don't. It's really a learning style that's not being helped, not being supported in the best way, so they can come across looking like ADD or ADHD. But there's links to medical sites and things where people can really read the difference between a neurotransmitter brain issue for ADD and ADHD versus, if it's not that, it's learning style. So this website is somewhere that parents have even to refer their schools or teachers to look and say, hey, here's some information. Just is if we can get people to just start opening their minds to it and having these dialogues like we're doing today, that's what's so important. I think that's how we can start the ripple effect of changing things out there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's a great resource, the website.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually, so at the retreat that I was at a couple weekends ago, with the spirit speakers. It was really amazing. There were several mothers there of highly intuitive kids they're like seeing so many, they're like so wide open, but they feel so isolated in their communities because they're like, we just, we bring up anything about this and we're like the weird family or whatever. And so coming together like that and having all these people that were feeling so isolated and being able to talk about it and share, it was so powerful for everyone. Yeah, I referred them on our WhatsApp. I put the link to your website there for those people, just, as a good resource, and just recognizing that there's people out there that are really, trying to provide some awareness and resources so they don't feel alone, they really do.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing, because that's key. It goes back to, this is more, it's more common than what people think. It's just not something that's been discussed. It's not something that people have really understood. It's always been there. Because like you said, you're intuitive, I'm intuitive, John's intuitive. Everybody's born with an intuitive ability. Some have it a little more heightened than others, but it's time. And there are a lot of people out there who are doing this work, who are helping support children. And there's a lot of mediumship development groups and helping adults and all. But so I think it's so important that at this time, if we keep normalizing it and take it from out of like the spiritual closet or the behind, keeping quiet about it and really bringing it out and talking about it, folks will see how much this is really, it's a part of who we are. And it's a part of that whole, the physical, the energetic, just bringing the whole piece of ourselves together as adults. But then now it's time, I think the children who are coming into the world at this time, it's just a different kind of, a lot more kids are more sensitive, I think, staying connected and really aware. And it's always been there, but I just feel like it's even more so now. And I think that's why everyone's feeling the shift of really getting out there and helping the kids. And not only the kids themselves, really connecting back to feeling whole in themselves by connecting to their intuitive side of themselves.
Absolutely. And the Reiki practitioner that works with my daughter, I was just talking to her last night. There was an open house, like a kind of I don't know, Kate, who is my OT mentor, she's an energy worker, and she had like kind of a launch party kind of thing, with a whole bunch of different people doing readings and stuff like that. But so Jen, this Reiki person, was there, and she was talking about how all the young people that she works with, once like she's able to like kind of connect with them and help them understand what's going on and give them some tools, they change so quickly, so much faster than the adults. And she's just on a mission to help these, because they're ready to go. And they're the ones that are going to really, when as they get older, they're the ones that are really going to amplify and accelerate these changes. If we can really fortify them, like give them a sense of you're good, there's nothing wrong. You're actually, you have a gift, and let's honor it and let's amplify it and let's use it in beautiful ways. So
yeah, and that's in what you said is absolutely true. They do change quickly and connect back to and embrace it. I think it's just once they know that they're supported and feel like they're not weird and they're not strange and know how to work with it, I think that's beautiful. And one of the things we're being drawn to do as well with our site is we are going to be putting part of the goal of this, and what Spirit was, the intuitive side, and was driving us to do with this whole thing, is to help people to know that there are resources out there. So we'll be adding to it like a directory of who's available and where in different parts of the country, because this is something that folks need to understand access. Where do they have access? There's practitioners all over who are working with children and who are doing this kind of thing. And the more we can put that information out there where people can reach out to and who they can reach out to and bring their children to locally, we start changing things. We start opening it up to know that it's okay. And even in schools, there's intuitive people everywhere. And for
Yep.
those teachers who are willing, or educators who are willing to be a point person in school, that's one of the things I hope at some point, that they're willing to be able to step up and say that, and then work with these kids, because they'll have a resource at school to go to that will help them process their intuitive and empathic, any their energies around it, and just answering any questions or anything that they're feeling they need support on. And that's really important. So I'm sure it was helpful with you, like you said, Rebecca, you being intuitive, and you were bringing that to the table. And I know there's many other teachers who are intuitive, who are bringing what they can to the table.
Absolutely. Yep. And at some point, I really do hope that we can have, not feel so oppressed by that status quo of what schools and the institution of schooling is, and the testing and the curriculum and all that, and that's all that we're doing. Like, we need to break out of that and really diversify, so.
Yeah, because I agree, it's not all about just grades, because I think grades are one indicator, but a child's success is going to be determined by their wholeness, the wholeness of their being connected to everything of who they are, and being able to feel confident and comfortable in themselves, and have an open mind, and being free to explore and fully bring their authentic selves to the table. And that's what even adults strive for that. And if we can help our children do that, just what you said, Rebecca, I truly believe that going forward, the innovations and the creativity, the advancement of our whole, world, like of humanity, will change if we don't have our next generations disconnect from the wholeness of who they are and their gifts. It's going to bring in that much more, that sooner, earlier, and things will change in positive and interesting ways, in a much quicker way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I got to, I don't know if I had mentioned this previously, when I was on, I got to experience what that would look like when I went to the Isha homeschool in India. So Sadhguru, who is an enlightened Indian man, he's pretty well known now. I do yoga practices that that are Isha yoga, and it's changed my life. But he started a school in India called the Isha homeschool. And when I was a teacher, I was like, I really need to check this out, because it's like my profession coming together with my, this person who is my spiritual guide. I want to see it. So I went to India and I volunteered for like a month. And, and I brought in some expertise in terms of understanding reading levels and how to teach reading and writing and that kind of thing. But I got to witness what their days were like. The kids, it's a the kids stay there, and there's house parents that are basically their parents while they're there. And the kids, the day is yoga. There's lots of movement. That was one big thing, yoga, and then like whole school games in the afternoon, like capture the flag and all sorts of things like that. And then the learning style was very project-based and child-driven and exploratory. But they had a lot of practices, in terms of like yoga and just like kind of daily self-care things that helped them. But they were allowed to really fully be themselves. And they were the most just self-aware, comfortable in their skin, joyful, gracious children I've ever come across. Like, as a whole, I was like, wow, it was really a beautiful experience, and highly successful in the academic world. They all took their exams at the end of their 12th year or whatever, and they were usually had some of the highest scores compared to other schools. And so it was a good example of how that would look.
Because they're allowed to work with the energy, the whole of who they are. And here is what you just said triggered a thought for me, to even for parents to know too, is what our kids don't get at school. We can need to find ways to provide it outside of the school environment. And just like what you're saying, like the yoga and the finding ways that they can process their energy, working with their intuitive abilities and ways. And that's why we want to educate parents on things they can do with their kids, but helping them to be able to find ways that complement. They have to go to school and they have to be a certain way and do things a certain way. But if we have armed parents and the support network with tools and things that they can do outside of school to help bring that whole balance back to the child, helps prepare them a little more for having to sit still in the classroom all day and just focus on their work and the whole things that you already know about.
Yeah.
So, but that's the main thing. I think it's just getting information out and getting parents to understand, and that there's a lot how we can advocate and what we can do to help support the kids from our family standpoint, and us being a support to teachers and stuff. If we have some intuitives that can volunteer their time and have a teacher or school that's open to them coming up and doing some meditation work or yoga work, or maybe bring some workshops in to do that kind of thing. Have you seen that happen, Rebecca?
Well, as you're saying this, I'm just thinking about like when I was a teacher and why I actually changed to become an OT was the OT parent in my classroom. She offered to do workshop, and this is actually a good thing, a point to think about for people. She didn't come in saying, I'm going to teach your kids about being intuitive and then, whatever. She came in and said, I'm going to teach your kids to help them recognize their internal engine and what's going on internally, and to seek out the tools they need that you're going to help set up for them in the classroom when they need it. So that she did, the workshop was all about, what's your engine? Like, is it like, kind of anxious and high and, upset and like you feel like you need to move around a lot, or is it really low and depressed and, like got to lay my head down on my desk? Or are we at a just right place for learning? And we're always trying to find that just right place. So she gave tools, like if you're up here, okay, so, we had different things in the classroom. They could go and do some movement activities. There was a safe place, there was cushions, and it had a photo album with all the parents so they could see their parents if they, needed that support. There was aromatherapy. There was, like a stuffed animal, something they could squeeze or hold. They could ask for a hug, whatever it was. They had all these tools. And so what happened was they would be able to, I would know they were checking in with themselves. They would close their eyes and they would check in. Where am I? What's my engine? And so that was the verbiage. And I'm sure, therapists of all kinds have different vocabulary around it, and you're really all getting at the same thing. We're just becoming more in tune and aware of what is happening inside of us, and then being when we're given the allowance to do something about it, and here's some tools, it really does help. It was just, that was a game changer too, just having all those things, the kids, and it gave them a way. So instead of misbehaving because they needed to do something, they had a very specific thing that they were told, it's available to you. This is all of it. These are all the tools in the classroom. It's available. So if you're having something going on, you can go, and I'm not, you just get up and go do it. And they did. And then they would come right back and get right back to work. And it was just, teachers think that they're going to lose control of the class if they give them too many ways, too many things that they can go and do. They feel like they're going to lose control. But if you're letting the kids know, if you're teaching them that you're just honoring where they're at, and that that they go through different things through the day, and that your main goal is for them to get back to that just right learning place, and that they are welcome to get up and do what they need, they'll get up and do what they need, and they'll come right back. If you're able to really teach them and show them that it's from a place of respect and honoring, they will reflect that. It's not, we don't have to control everybody all the time. So,
Yeah. Wow. I love that, because what you just hit on is something that even for us with what we've done here, you said it, it's languaging, it's verbiage, it's just how it's packaged, and that's why we've taken a lot of, we don't use so much as to say psychic and that kind of, it's intuitive. We all have an intuitive intelligence, and we all have, like you're saying, that internal engine, that inner GPS, that it's just the way it's presented. And if we can start presenting things, and that's how we lay out the website, was to present it in a way that helps to normalize it, so people will embrace it and actually bring it in, and be more open to it, bring it in and use it, because we want this to start getting out there. So I love how you said how the occupational therapist was using language thing that was helping people to, the kids, and I'm sure even parents, to understand, embrace it more.
Yep.
And that's so important. It's all the same thing. You can label it different things, but however we label it, we just need to get it so it's helping the children stay connected to their whole being, and this, part, like we're talking highly intuitive, their intuitive side, to help them succeed, be successful and be comfortable at school and at home and the places where they need this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, John, you look like you have anything you want to add?
No, I'm just kind of taking in this. Just kind of listening.
Okay.
Don't have anything to add, really.
Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take just a couple of minutes, because I think it's important for people to know the resources they have around them to help them to advocate. I'm going to just screen share real quick and pull up. Let's see here. Oh, you guys can see the website?
Yep.
So this is the website, and this is what we were intuitively led to put together, because as people, maybe the folks who joined the group, I hope they're aware that our son was on the Psychic Kids show back in 2019, and on Inside Edition just in January of this year. We did those platforms, and we were looking for a way to help our son, and we didn't know how to go about it at that time. Even though I'm intuitive, John is also intuitive. We didn't grow up seeing what it looked like in a child, and knew how to help our son. Through those shows, they were great. You look at those as platforms, because they talked about it, and of course they present it in the way that TV likes to present things, as paranormal, and from that angle, and that's fine. But we felt like there was a mission to actually bring in, to let people know there are resources out there. Because after the shows that we did, we went on a big search, and we had people reaching out to us for, how can you help, information, we need help too. So we've been talking to parents and families, and got us to a bigger thinking of what can we do to help people know this is not abnormal. It's more common. There's more people out there with this trait. It exists, and it is a trait. It's not a weird or strange thing. And so we put this website together, and we wanted to focus on helping the families, helping schools, educators, helping other professionals. So just a quick go through here. It's just it's the website. We have feature different speakers and folks that we have come in, just talks about our mission and all of that. But the bigger part I want to get to here is it has resources for families, the parents, information about the kids, the educators, and for others. I'm going to go here, and you'll see on the drop-down menus. Oops, I'm going to go to support. Support. It just talks about, for anybody who wants to go out and look, there's assessments out there for signs of intuition, signs of being an empath, ways you can help your highly intuitive child. And then the areas here, parent support, educator support, and other professional support. So this is where, and we're talking about education today, we'll go to parents. Parents can look at all three of those areas, and there's each one of these have where you can read more about information that can help you to understand how to support your child. Like this one here is about primary actions for parenting highly intuitive kids, 10 skills that your highly intuitive help teach your highly intuitive child stress in the highly intuitive child and importance of diet, exercise, and sleep. So these are based on research, lots of research, pulling together information that's been in existence. That's one thing that people may not know. There's been people doing this work for a long time. Whitney Burns was just in last week, and her work came out in the late 90s. And all of her information, she's been doing this for quite a while and has books out and resources out and has been working with intuitive kids. So it's not something, I think right now it's becoming much more attention to it, but there are a lot of good resources out here. And then underneath we have, what you should know to advocate and build a network, the importance of the school environment, and to seek help when it's necessary. Because there are kids that may need more help with dealing with anxiety, and some kids who are intuitive and do have ADD, ADHD, just how to work with that. So I think parents look through all the parenting tips information. And then at the bottom, we do have emergency services in case somebody's in need. There are resources right at the bottom of the page. And I'm going to show, we're talking today about school. So we go into the educators piece. This is where there's information, resources for educators and tips for educators and school counselors. And we have, when you click into these, just click into here, it goes into ways we can support our child, the highly intuitive child at school. And there's just some supportive actions for educators and school counselors. These are just like little snippets, not a lot of detail, but it's enough just for people to start thinking about this and opening to that there's another way of working with these children and children with high intuition. And that, like I said, not always is it a diagnosis, but that there's an actual being open to different learning styles and how to work with kids as a possibility outside that cookie cutter way of doing it. So this one has about, oops, let me go back here. Just go back on the educator one. So we talk about the challenges at schools, ways that you can support your highly intuitive child, the classroom environment, and learning styles. And you'll see at the bottom of this one, but even, so it talks about how intuitive kids being intuitive learners and thinkers, and that most classroom curricula don't support the styles the way that it would be helpful to the children. And parents can go read through all that, but there's also a link here to go to the Myers-Briggs assessment. Teens and tweens, wonderful thing. Parents, even if parents don't know their personality style or how they process and work, take the Myers-Briggs. You can make it a family effort, and it's interesting to see how everyone can start understanding each other better and working with their styles better. And then there's a section here for other professionals, because there are kids that get referred to mental health professionals, social workers, and advocates, family advocates. And this is information out here for them to know, just to look for ways to help the highly intuitive child, signs that they may need professional help, how high intuition can mimic other diagnoses, and referring parents and caregivers for support. And in that section, we put like this website is a valuable resource for them. And we're looking at, there's peer-to-peer mentoring. We're going to be starting that with our efforts. We're growing and we're continuing to unroll different facets of this whole thing, and having people who are willing to work with, if we have other mental health professional or social worker who wants to have a consult about, I don't know, maybe this is a child, maybe it's a learning style, I'm not sure. You can always reach out to our group here, to the highly intuitive kids, and ask for support, or just know that, and there may be an intuitive psychotherapist or somebody in their own area that they can work with. But I wanted to go in here real quick and show how high intuition can mimic other diagnoses. And what we've done with this is anywhere that you see it's underlined is hyperlinked to articles by like the Mayo Clinic and other, credible PhD, different articles. And it talks about how, what to look for, so if you're being told that your child has ADD or ADHD, ask the questions. This is just to give you information to get you started to do your research on your own, but ask the questions. Is it really a neurotransmitter issue, something with the brain, or is it learning style? Could it be a learning style difference? So different diagnoses can be ADD, ADHD, sensory processing disorder, All of these link out to other resources, high intuition versus high sensitivity. And I'm just going to click on one because I think this one is actually, yeah, and you can see there's even videos linked to these. And I believe this one is Elaine, yeah, Dr. Elaine Aaron. She wrote the book, The Highly Sensitive Person, The Highly Sensitive Child. There's videos out here that people can look at as well. So we took a lot of care to make sure we were linking to credible resources. And so that's for the support, so you can look at that. Then you do have the resource section I'm going to show really quickly. You have books and videos and online resources and helpful techniques. So you can see there's lots of books out here to get parents started. You know, any of these can be purchased. They're all on Amazon. So about empaths and path lives, all of this, you know, intuitive thinkers, sensitivity, anxiety, because a lot of these kids deal with that, parenting. So if people want to need resources to help them and where to start, you've got that out here. Type in temperament, like we're talking about learning styles and all. And then Rebecca's book is here, Let Them Move, grounding movement for kids. And art is so key for helping, art and creativity. That's how we connect, especially to our intuitive learning styles and our intuitive abilities. And then some holistic, we have the tapping, which Luann Beecher just did a session on tapping, books for tweens and children's books. And so you've got resources. We just want parents to know there's lots of resources and information out here. And then, of course, our community. You can join the Facebook community here, and we have a blog and all this information. So I just want to make sure that people know that there's a lot that we've been guided to pull together to make available for parents, and for parents to use this to help tell others around their children, hey, there's take a look, just read, start, you know, looking at this information and seeing that this is something that is really, we need to look at differently, that is really a trait and not, like I said, not a diagnosis, not my child is weird, not that I'm weird, but this is really good information to get people started to understand high intuition more. So I just kind of went through that really quick, but I just want people to know that that's a resource that's out there that's helpful. So I don't know, is there anything else I need? I kind of flew through that. Did anybody want to, go through anything else on the site?
No, I really love it. It's the way you've got it set up and all the resources. It's a lot of good stuff. So
it's a start. The key is it's a start. That's what we were guided to do. It's a start, and people can use that as a springboard to go into getting more information on their own, looking for local groups, looking for local people that they can work with, and really start finding ways that we can help not only the adult intuitives reconnect with who they are, but are making things better for our children as well. So, but this was so great. And I'm so happy, Rebecca, that you were able to be here and be part of this parent chat because you bring all of your school and occupational therapist knowledge to the table here. And this has been really helpful.
Good. Yeah. No, it's always a joy to connect with you all.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much. So I'm gonna actually, so that's for October. That kind of concludes our parent chat. And we will be getting back together again for our next one and talking about more topics that will be helpful for parents and caregivers and educators in our group and actually other intuitives who want to work with children who are in the group. All of this is to help give information and hopefully some understanding on ways of what you can do so that we can all help support our next generation intuitives, highly intuitive kids in the best way.
Thank you.
Thanks.